Working hard, how hard it is, but finding a balance, work-life balance. What does life look like now after you get through those first couple of years? Obviously, there's probably no way of not putting in the grinding hours. But what does work-life balance look like now? How many hours are you working? How are you balancing your life?
Are you looking at me, Trent?
Well, here's the thing. Rebecca has a fantastic answer, but we're going to hear a wide array of it. So, Rebecca, start us off and then we can all feel bad after how much more we work than you do.
We're all different. We've all got different approaches. For me, I think even from the beginning, before I had my own firm, I've got my own now for 8 years, just that balance has been so important because I feel like we are better brokers. We're just better humans when we are refreshed, when our battery is just not drained and low. So to me, that's always just been important to make sure that my fountain is full and then I can give overflow, right? So I work less than 20 hours a week. I'm a mom now, and that was really an important priority for me. That kind of came later on in life. So I like to pick up the kids every day and spend time with them. But I do, and I take my Sabbath on Friday. But when I'm there, I'm very focused at the office. And when I'm away, I really do focus. I want to be present wherever I am. But I think it's just instrumental to have that self-care, and I think you will thrive because of it.
I don't believe in work-life balance, so I'm joking. Hear me out because it'll. But I believe things are either a priority or they're not. So for me, it's my family, my health, and my companies. So and I don't have any hobbies or anything, so I just collect companies and real estate. So it's just, but it all comes if my family foundation and my health is not strong, everything else is screwed. So I will not sacrifice that. And then obviously we have a 4-year-old, so I'm at a different place now with that. So I want to, between the hours of 4 and 8, I hang out with him, and then I work every day, but zero inbox, and then the second shift you do the work until it needs to get done. And I have a lot of very, very capable people that do work. So I'm going to my house in Florida for an entire month next week. So it's just different. I'll try to do as limited meetings, but it's just hanging out with my family when my son jumps important. I could not do that 10 years ago, by the way. But that's what I do.
And then Adam?
I think it's important when you're first starting out. You got to work your butt off. You got to work your tail off. You got to put your dues in. You got to make things happen. But I'm at the point now, several years, as far back as I can remember, I kind of just look at myself as, I'm like a professional. Whether it's a CPA or an attorney, I work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. I don't answer the phone after 5 o'clock. I answer the phone on the weekend unless I'm working on a deal or having trouble. But, I just look at myself and I've never had a seller or buyer that whole time question that. Become really good friends with Rebecca over the last couple of years. I have a lot of respect for her. I'm talking to her a lot about things, and I really appreciate her work-life balance. And so starting this year, I started taking Fridays off. Now, granted, I'm not quite all the way there yet. I'm still working a couple hours, most Fridays, early in the morning, doing some emails and some phone calls. But for the most part, I'm taking Fridays off right now, and I'm enjoying the work-life balance a lot better.
I've really struggled with this, really struggled. I think the first 5 years, I conservatively averaged 60 hours a week. I didn't matter if it was the weekend or the weekday. Only in the last probably couple of years have I gotten a lot better at that. And it's still a struggle. I am not the smartest person in this room. I might be the smartest up here, but I'm not the smartest in this room. And but I will outwork anybody. And I'm a grinder, and that takes years to pay off. But it's something that I struggle with, this whole work-life balance, and we're empty nesters. Our kids are out, and my wife wants me out of the house. I'm the only probably person in here during COVID. My wife required me to go to the office because that's our work-life balance. And but it's a real struggle for me to this day. that I'm aware of.
A reminder to you guys, remember there's as many questions as you guys want. We'll go with your questions. So come up to the microphone anytime up here, or else you got a question. While he's coming to the microphone, I'll just add a comment to that. We all kind of laugh when Al said he doesn't believe in work-life balance, but there's a concept I learned a long time ago. You guys know what a Chinese acrobat is? You guys know what they are. You see them in like the circus. They've got all these sticks and they're balancing and they have a plate spinning. And they're trying to keep all the plates spinning without falling. Work-life balance, often, at least the way I approach it, is the same thing, like a Chinese acrobat. Those plates are never going to be spinning at the exact same time, at the exact same speed. That's the way I approach work-life balance. So when one plate, maybe the family plate, you need to focus on the family. You gotta spin it a little bit. So when I'm with the family, I'm with the family. I'm not with the family trying to do text messages and working, but maybe I have some church responsibilities. When I'm at church, I'm at church. I'm not worried about other stuff, and I'm spinning that plate. When I'm at work, I'm at work. I'm spinning that plate. And so, to their point, it's often like just keeping the priorities straight. So are they all going to be balanced exactly at the same time? Probably not. But you can juggle everything and prioritize it and be where you are at the same time. Russell?
Okay, so this is not a layup question. We're on the cusp of a potential major recession. And there's a lot of people who have never experienced a recession in business growth. They might have survived COVID, but it really wasn't a true long-standing 6-year recession. So what I want to know is, most of you may not think it's there, but if it does come about, what kind of tips can you give to the younger brokers to survive a long-standing recession? Because incomes will drop in the mainstream market. So I wanted to hear from you what kind of tips that you can survive if a long-standing recession comes.
So it would definitely be appropriate to start with the smartest person on the stage. So Adam, let's just take a question.
The good news is I talked to Russell a lot. He's been telling me this for 5 years. So, in all honesty, I've been planning for a drop for the last 4 years. I've never had more cash than I do right now, and I say that in all seriousness. I think volatility is going to exist. I still think there's plenty of opportunities, whether we're up, down. You know, there's plenty of people, baby boomers, that are going to need to sell. Instead of getting $5 million, they might get $2.5 million. People still get sick. People get divorced. Life happens. So I am conscious of this, and I think it's a legitimate question, because I've been in this business 10 years and there hasn't been a hard recession. So I'm not the best person to answer that. And so when Russell asks me this question all the time, I turn back and say, I don't know, Russell, what am I going to do? And I just want to add one sort of comment. We're thinking about this panel. I probably spend 10% of my time every week, so let's say 5-6 hours, calling other people in this business to pick their brain. There's so much knowledge in this room, in this community, in your local community. I cannot tell you, if you're not friends with your local brokers, it's a missed opportunity. They're not your competition. So my biggest competitor is one of the biggest in the country. We have lunch every quarter. We email each other almost every week. Like, utilize people in this industry who may have gone through different experiences. And so Russell and everyone else who's been in this business more than 10 years, I'll be calling you if we have a recession, because I've built up that network, and I think it's really, really vital to get other people's opinions, and then you have to make the best decision for you and your local business.
Personally, like when I started out, I was not prepared to open my own firm. I was not looking for that. I was not prepared. So financially, I was not prepared. I had just gone through a divorce. I had just gone through an audit. I'd gone through that whole non-compete, right? Lots of negativity, and that's not my vibe. So then I couldn't really afford, I didn't get a small business loan or anything, so I used all of my savings, I racked up my credit cards, like I was in a bad place. I went to the SBDC and they're like, girlfriend, you cannot keep going in the red, this is not good. But I was like, if you build it, they will come, right? But I'm telling you, as soon as I got that commission, I did not pay myself for a while. I had prayed about it, they had a thing in the church bulletin about Dave Ramsey debt-free. I did it, I lived it, like I really did. I'm debt adverse, and so that's how I've personally just kind of put myself in I always invest back in my business, right, with my assistants and my team. I always get back to that, but the self-discipline, because I think it is hard, because a lot of people, right, they get that regular paycheck, right, they're like 70 grand all year, they're getting that monthly. We're feast or famine. So I think having that self-discipline of, wow, I've got money, let's go to that trip to Hawaii. No, let's have, our 6 months in reserve, I think being disciplined with that gives a little bit of peace of mind for what could happen in the future.
Yeah, there's definitely some peace of mind becoming debt-free that you just don't realize until you actually
Yeah, I think definitely need to have cash reserve set aside. I like to have 6 months to 12 months of cash reserve set aside. I think it's very, very important that you live well below your means. And, talking to what Rebecca was saying, you start issuing yourself a paycheck. If you've got 6 months worth of reserves something lined up, instead of get a commission check, you're taking all your money that you get and you're blowing it, you figure out what your salary is, pay yourself a check every single month, and then give yourself distributions or dividends every quarter. I think that's the way to do it. I did go through the Great Recession, and what I did was I went and I printed up restaurant cards. I specialize in selling restaurants. This is during the Great Recession. And I got a lot of activity. I don't know why it took me this many years later to say, oh, maybe I should specialize in a vertical. I'm not doing restaurants, by the way. I sold asset sale restaurants. Restaurants were going out of business for $50,000, $75,000. That's a hard way to make a living for 2 years. I wouldn't do that again. I would start looking at businesses that are going to do well during a recession and target those businesses. So start gearing towards those types of businesses and get this mindset as well. As you're targeting those businesses, you telling me that you cannot sell 10 to 15 businesses in a year somewhere in this country? I don't care how bad the economy is, what's going on, if we have COVID or anything else that can be happening. You should be able to sell 10 to 15 businesses. So don't blame it on a recession.
Jim taught me before Al, Jim taught me a phrase that, as we talked about potential recessions, he just said, I'm not going to participate in the next recession. There you have it.
I do not participate in recessions anymore.
Go ahead, Al.
That's exactly what my sales coach said. I just choose not to participate. He told me that 15 years ago. But I believe, I'll touch real quick on the cash reserves. I believe only the paranoid survive, so I keep a year of reserves in all the companies, so I'm just ready to go. So I run a conservative business that's ready for all eventualities. If you do have admin staff, cut fast and cut twice as much as you need, so you don't have to do it twice. So if stuff does hit the fan, and then the second part is that your throughput. So you're gonna, Adam said this, I think, deal sizes will half if you study what happened, which means our commissions half. So you're gonna have to sell twice as many companies for the same throughput.
You guys all know the formula revenue minus expenses equal profit. Change that a little bit. Revenue minus your own pay equals the expenses. Pay yourself first and then figure out the rest. We have a question from Neil.
Oh, okay. First, I want to thank all of you for being on the panel and sharing your knowledge. I want to encourage others to ask questions. My question for you guys who manage other brokers is about delegation, micromanagement. If you're empowering your brokers to do deals, how, and I think I know the answer for Rebecca, but I want your answer as well. How closely are you letting go of that? Are you copied on every email? Are you looking for problems, or are you just waiting for problems to come to you? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Better start.
Me?
Yeah.
Well, I'm different because I'm a solo broker and I just have a team. I think it's, like I say, my office is a perpetual classroom, right? I'm always teaching. I let them make their mistakes. I want them to learn from that. I want them to have the freedom. I don't like to micromanage. That's a whole other job within itself. That's not, a good fit for me. And I think by letting them have that exposure, like they have complete access to my email inbox, and to let them sometimes fumble a bit, but they're pretty good. They really haven't. I've been blessed with that, and I think there's training and steps that go into that. But I think giving them that empowers them, and I say let them mess up, because they take it harder. They get more upset at themselves than I do at them when they do mess up. So
I think it comes down to trust. I'm not a micromanager of my team, and I spent the first 7 years in this business believing what everyone in this industry told me, which was go get 8, 10, 12 people and run a hub and spoke system. And I ran around for the first 7 years, and for me, concluded that's the stupidest business model I could ever participate in. And so we have shrunk down to 2 brokers, and our revenue has tripled. So along the way, going back to delegating, I read somewhere that if you don't have an assistant, you are the assistant. And so from a delegation standpoint, bringing on W-2 staff that I can work with, train, and control, our business has thrived. And they support everyone on our team. And so I do not micromanage our team. They make mistakes. I encourage them to make mistakes. They're not going to be fired. We're going to do things ethically, morally, and professionally. But I encourage them to try things. And sometimes they fail, but sometimes, as long as they don't lose the deal, you got to try different things.
So in 2016, I had 23 agents, and I was mentoring them and training them. And I'm sitting there one day thinking, I made more money when I was an agent on the road myself, and I've got 23 agents. So February 2016, I fired 17 agents in one day. That was our best year up to date. Right now, I'm at the point in my company that we don't bring on new agents. All of our agents are very, very experienced, very seasoned agents. So, and when we have brought in an agent here and there in the last few years, it's been one of my partners that have trained that person and really spent a lot of time with them. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like, you got to let go, like everybody's saying. But at the end of the day, this is why I don't bring on a new agent in my office. Because if you're bringing on a new agent, you owe that agent really good training. You owe that agent really good mentorship. If you're the type of broker that's out there doing deals yourself like me, and you can't spend that time with that person, you're doing that person a disservice. And I agree that they have to learn on their own, they're gonna run into these mistakes on their own, but really, you should be training them and mentoring them, talking to them all the time, that you're reducing those mistakes because they know for the most part what they're doing. I would never just bring an agent in and give them a week's worth of training and just throw them out there on the road. I think you're doing a disservice to that person who has a spouse and maybe kids and got bills, but also to the sellers and the buyers out there. That's the biggest transaction in their life. And I just think you owe it to that. So if you're going to bring in agents, don't just look at dollar signs. You owe that person a lot.
So before Al answers, in case you don't know, he has like 17,000 employees, so his answer is going to be good.
What percentage did you find? What percentage is 17 into 23? Yeah. So, if I'm micromanaging you, you're probably going to get fired. So that's you can't scale and micromanage everyone else. So we believe in teaching people how to fish. So we're going to give them the training, the resources, the tools, encourage them to come to this conference, encourage them to meet people like Trent and just see what other people are doing. Like Adam calls those competitors, see what we're doing. Our biggest competition is not each other, it's the awareness that sellers know we exist. And it's been like that since I got into the business. And you need to hire and fire to your culture. My top producer in Dallas, he did almost $1 million in revenue already this year. I fired him a couple weeks ago because he wasn't a culture fit. And I gave him the benefit of the doubt. He didn't belong at the firm. So you can't be afraid to be able to do that and stand your ground, because otherwise it's very, very hard to scale culture, because you lose it sometimes. So, and for whatever reason, we've been able to figure that out because we've stuck to it and gotten rid of people when it was appropriate at the time. So.
Thanks. Got a question over here.
So going back to the first thing you guys talked about, if you were a new agent restarting, other than a CRM, what are the top products and services that you guys say, you absolutely need this in order to service your clients, get more business, because obviously these things add up, and first 2 years you might not be making money.
So top systems or just general top
there's products or services that you're like, you need this for your business in order to service your clients. Like obviously, CRM is the first thing. But what else would you guys recommend?
So I would answer the question completely differently. I think the first thing any new broker needs to do is to get off their ass and get out of their office and go meet people. We are in the people business. Systems and technology are tools, but you need to drive the business and not the systems and technology drive the business. They can support you, but this is a fundamentally human business. And if you're not creating those contacts with the end users, I don't care what CRM system you have, it doesn't matter.
Rebecca, sorry, I'll add to that. Any business, our business included, is either at one particular time, it's not both. It's either demand constrained or supply constrained. So we talk about these tools and AI and all this other stuff. That's only valuable if you're constrained by having so much work that you need to become more efficient. So don't lose sight of chasing this shiny AI and tools and all that type of stuff unless you have so much work coming in. You need to be so efficient that you can leverage that. Work on becoming getting so much supply coming in that you're actually then constrained by it and need the tools.
I want to add one more thing. So we all are getting inundated with searchers, right? And they've got their website, and they've got their one page, and they've got their CRM, and they've got their whole tech stack, and they're so excited to tell you what they're doing technology-wise. And I'm telling you, don't do what they're doing. Be a human. Get out. Talk to business owners. Because I laugh at all of those folks, because they're never going to be able to buy a business because there's going to be an analysis paralysis. They're spreadsheet jockeys that don't understand the human element that goes on between buyers and sellers in this process. And I would tell you, think how your searchers are approaching you from a technology standpoint and do the exact opposite.
I think maybe just the way I interpret the question is a little different than others. For me, having my foundation and having my ducks in a row was really important. So if you know me, I'm not a CRM girl, I'm not a technology girl. That is not my but I'm not transworld, right? So if you're with a great brokerage like that, you have all your documents and things in place. But when you're a solo practitioner, I had to spend a great deal of time with like, okay, what's my evaluation process, right? What's my system? How does this look like? What are my intake forms? What's my questionnaire? My marketing materials? My website is huge. I mean, I would say put money in your website because that's like investing in you, right? Professional headshots for your, LinkedIn thing, things like that. Like, I really wanted to check all of those boxes, and I wanted to have all of that in order before like I hit the ground running, because then you go and you market and you're in person and you get that client, but you don't want to be like, oh shoot, I don't have a letter of intent, I don't have, my forms together. So I don't know if that's kind of where you're going, but I do think to me, that's important. And we look at those every year. We pull out all of our stuff. What is our brochure? What is this? Making sure our marketing is consistent, and we look at it and we're like, oh, let's freshen this up a little bit, let's add this, the market's changing because of that. I do think it's important to be organized.
I don't know, technology. I don't want to age myself, but, you know, I started to get flip phones, fax machines, and barely a website. So for me, I don't think you really need to focus on the technology. I think you need to focus on building relationships, doing business brokerage really, really well. And like Trent said, as you get busier, you're gonna start looking for the tools that are gonna make you more efficient in what you do. But, you know, starting out, I wouldn't focus on all the bells and whistles. You know, just get out there and start marketing yourself, start getting listing leads, and listing the businesses, and getting them sold. The technology that's gonna make your job easier and more efficient, that's gonna naturally come as you're trying to seek ways to maximize your time.
And you need to have a way to pay for it too. So get listings and remember that lots of deals got done before Al Gore invented the internet.
I'd like to add one more thing. You know, I'm not trying to avoid your question at all with technology. It's just, I don't think I'm gonna name any technology that you're like, wow, that's so great, you know? You got the Sends, you got MailChimp or Constant Contact and all the other different apps you can have and things like that, but I don't think that there's any groundbreaking technology out there that's just completely changing our industry at this moment. I think we're probably all using basically the same things, just except for Trent.
All right, I'll come to you. I see a question that this gentleman's been waiting for, so go ahead.
What would you say for each of you when you look at your journey, the evolution of your business, personally or professionally, maybe both? What was a fundamental choice, a decision, a shift that you made that when you did it, you look back and say, man, I wish I did that years earlier?
I'd like to take that first, if that's okay. This one's so easy for me, and I swear to God, I'm not just saying this. I waited 16 years to join the IBBA and get involved in this association, and I'm telling you, I think I was a good broker. I think I was a pretty good broker, but I'm telling you, when I joined the IBBA, started taking the classes, the workshops, interacting with people, and having beers with people, and having dinners with people, and having friends, and reaching out to people all over the country, my practice changed night and day. IBBA, I cannot believe I waited 16 years. Yeah.
For me, it was definitely hiring an assistant that changed my life, for sure. Doing that, hiring an assistant, doing things that are mundane, don't bring me joy, that I can pay somebody else $25 an hour to do. And I had another thing, but I forgot what it was. Hiring an assistant. Oh, and not doing my email inbox. Duh, that's my thing, that's my jam. So yeah, having that managed, those are game changers for me.
I think running it like a business from day one, because it's easy to get caught up, you get the big commission, you want to go buy whatever, it's just like, but that's not the right thing to do. It's just like running it like a company, and then you can decide if you're going to maintain 5 people, or if you want 110, or whatever, and you can scale accordingly. There's no magic bullet or right or wrong way to do this, I think.
Listening. When you come to these, I'm in the CBBBA, when you go to your associations, when you go to the IBBA, M&A Source, or whatever other related association, I really try to listen. I go to this every year. My 10th year, I missed one because my son graduated, so I missed that one. But I take away 2 or 3 major things from every one of these conferences. You know, 2 years ago, Rebecca got up and talked about how she doesn't manage her email. And I thought she was a foreigner. And now I have someone who manages my email. Jim and someone else yelled at me to hire an assistant. They said, we're not going to talk to you anymore until you give us, literally, they said, we're not going to talk to you unless you give us the job description. And I went and wrote a job description, and then, you know, so I said I spend a lot of time talking with other people in this industry, in this room, and elsewhere, my competition. What's working? What's not working? What mistakes did you make? Like, I R&D off of everybody in this industry. I rip off and I duplicate and I make it work for my business. And so don't be afraid to ask, but when you ask, you have to shut up and listen.
Great. Let's go with your question.
I would like to ask a question because when we sell in businesses, most businesses are unsellable because of one thing. They have no asset, they did not have a succession plan. How important is it for a broker to have a succession plan so they can sell their business when they're ready to retire?
I'm actually marketing myself right now because I've been doing this for 23 years, and I'd say in the last 4 or 5 years, I'm hearing more and more. I mean, most of the sellers I talk to now are calling me because they want to sell their business and they want to retire. That's why most of the people I'm dealing with. I mean, 40% of all business owners in the United States were born before 1964. So there's all these business owners out there. And what breaks my heart is when I get on the phone with somebody who wants to sell their business, I'm like, yeah, my wife retired a few years ago. We got our RV. We want to travel the country. We want to spend more time with our grandkids, etc., etc. And then I have to come back to them and tell them that I think their business is unsellable. It breaks my heart. It's really hard to do. I remember one time I talked to a 71-year-old guy. He told me he had no money saved up, and he needed to sell his business in order to retire. He wasn't able to sell his business. I hate having those conversations. So actually what I'm trying to do now is I'm marketing myself to business owners and saying, hey, if you're thinking about selling in the next 2 or 3 years, let's have a conversation. It'll be confidential, and let's chat. We talk about their financials, and they send over their financials, and I go through their financials with them. I talk to them about things like client concentration, key employees, all the things that can make a deal bad. You know, look at their financials. They run too many personal expenses through the business and say, these are all the things you need to adjust. And what I'm doing is I'm building up my pipeline for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And at the same time, it's making me feel better because I know that these people are going to get a lot more money when they go to sell their business, or they're going to have the chance to sell to begin with.
I think we need to change our mindset with here because we haven't had a ton of it here with our solo practitioner brokerages and things. We don't usually, it's more of a lifestyle business, right? We usually don't have a whole lot to sell from what I'm familiar with. So I actually went to a summit last week to learn more about this, how to change my firm from more of a lifestyle business to one that is sellable, right? So I'm really trying to get in that frame of mind because I feel like, Jim, when I do that, when I learn it, if I can apply it to myself, then that can help me help, the ones that I have to turn down as well. So I think it's really important to, I had to do out of necessity when I adopted twins, right, decentralize. But I think that's important in our firms, right, when we do let our team do more and learn more and have good procedures set up. I think that sets us up for success that we could sell our firms, which I think is exciting, and I think that's just so good for us as a whole industry to kind of have that hope, because I think a lot of us are just like, oh, it was a good run, I'm gonna go out and just not take any more listings. What if we could, I know with franchises, right, they can, but for those with the others. So that's kind of what I'm personally leaning, I think I've always kind of leaned into that, right? I don't wanna have to be there all the time. But just looking at things with that lens, and I really did enjoy that summit because they gave a lot of percentages and things and it's a different state of mind with building value in our own firm.
Following up on what Rebecca said, my 10th year is next month, and I would admittedly say for the last 10 years, I've run a lifestyle business, and my focus the next 10 years will be to generate a value-creating business. So that's why I've been bringing on, when I'm adding people, they're going to be W-2. And so, again, I pick people's brains in this industry. To me, I see more and more firms going to hiring W-2s as brokers and staff. And so I think those that are doing that are making a pathway so that ultimately, my business or Rebecca's business or others can be more saleable when not if, but when we decide to exit.
Makes your job a lot easier too, when you have assistants and people on.
Al?
Yeah, we started our exit factor business for this very reason, because we were so sick of people just shutting their businesses down or whatever, because there was 3 things they could do to extract tremendous value, and you're not having to deliver that message, hey, by the way, what you've worked 30 years at is worth nothing, although I think we can sell anything. And it's personal to me because my dad basically shut down his company that he wanted me to take over in 2006 and sold it for parts. It was 10 million in revenue and it sucked. So that's part of the reason that I have a passion for doing this. And at our companies, every year strategic planning, I think if you run a business like it's ready to sell at any given point, you're gonna run a better, more profitable business. Period, end of story. There's no argument against that. So we talk about at least once a year what we're gonna do, and what our options are, who our buyers might be. I'm not gonna do it. I told my partners, the day I'm not having fun is the day everything's gone. So, but we're still having fun. This is a fun business. We do deals and work with our friends, right?
Yeah, it is. All right, Ryan, I'll come to you after Amy. You have a question from Amy.
Hi, thank you so much for being on the panel. We've talked a lot about how to be successful. Can you talk briefly about what you do to celebrate success, A, with your owners, and B, with your team? Do you have a closing or you have it ready, or just briefly?
I'm sorry, what was A and B?
A is what you do to celebrate with your clients. B is what you do to celebrate with your brokers, if anything.
Question?
Oh, I love to celebrate. I do a little bit of it all. I really, it depends on the client, right? On the seller. So sometimes it's a dinner, you know, sometimes it's a very personal gift of something that I know that they enjoy. My love language is gifts, so that's kind of easy for me. With my team, I celebrate because it's a Tuesday. Our mail guy left and we left and we had a party. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, I look for any time to celebrate. So I think I do that constantly with my team. Like, we just updated our website, and I'm like, we just updated our website. This is great. This is awesome. I think relishing. What I do, y'all, it's so heavy. It is so heavy, right? We have this huge weight on our shoulders. I'm helping somebody with the biggest transaction of their life, right? It's so serious. I have that very, very serious side. So I think with the little things, like, that's the environment I have for my team, is I celebrate them. When they nail something, I'm like, you nailed that. That's awesome. Good for you, like the accolades. But I think it's even just the little things. I try to take all of those captive, because there's a lot of times when we get that call, right? And it's heavy, it's hard. And I think that's important, and I think that's important to celebrate your clients. My work therapist has helped us to identify when we're talking to these clients initially, to kind of find out like what makes them tick. So I think that helps, Amy. I think it helps to kind of find out, A, know your staff, what makes them tick. Are they words of affirmation? Are they gifts? Like what makes them go round? And the same thing with your clients. And I think switching it up kind of helps. Not getting too, like a wine bottle for everybody or a whatever, everybody has their own things, but I say mix it up and get to know the individual.
We almost always take our clients out for a dinner, and we usually wait a minimum of 30 days. So at that point, they're almost happy to see us again. And the stress of the transition of the first couple weeks has dissipated, and so they're ready to, very more in a mood to celebrate than they were maybe the week after. So we do that. We have sent some gifts, but the thing that I've changed in the last year is really focusing on my internal team. We closed for us, it was a $30 million private equity deal that just sucked. And so I went to my transaction manager, and after she came back from lunch, I gave her a $1,000 Visa gift card, and I said, "You're done for the day. I will never tell your husband that you got this Visa card, but go to the mall and have fun." And she started crying. And, it was the little things like that I'm cognizant to really make sure you can't do that every deal. But sometimes when your employees go above and beyond, you need to go above and beyond.
Great. Al?
We focus a lot on taking care of the employees. Like, we send them birthday cards, anniversary cards, and then what Adam was just talking about, we call jackpot gifts. So we'll do $1,000, someone does something good, something interesting, some swag. but you just really got to take care of your people, and you got to celebrate the little wins. Like every partner in my firm, when someone gets their first listing, they'll call that person, and then their first LOI, their first closed deal, and so on, because it's the steps along the way that we got to celebrate, not just the closing.
Jim?
Celebrate. Nobody in this room probably knows this, but I like to have a drink or two. No, I think taking care of your employees is really good. I think, to me, your employees and your SBA lenders, your attorneys, I think everybody like that is a part of our team. And I think it's really important you treat everybody in your team really, really well. I don't come from this mindset of, try to pay as little as you possibly can, maximize as much work as you can possibly get out of that person. No, I want my employees to be paid well. I want them to be compensated well. I'd like to give them bonuses. One of the ladies at our office, it was our 10th year anniversary. We gave her a 3-week cruise to Hawaii. We just want to take care of our people. And then, our vendors, our closing attorneys and our SBA lenders. Like, I'm arguing with Deborah Carmen all the time. You guys know Deborah Carmen, she's my attorney that I use all the time. She's fantastic. And she wants to give me free work when I need something. She's like, I'll just do it for you, Jim. When you give me so much work, I'm like, no. I want you, I want to pay you because I want to take care of you, and I know that you're going to be there when I need you there. That's my philosophy, to take care of everybody around you, and it's all going to come back to you tenfold.
I'll tell you what, when I sell a business, I celebrate by getting new listings. So one goes out, another one comes in. I gotta keep the machine going. Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So there's 5 of you up there. So Becca, you're a specialist. Jim, you're transitioning from a generalist to a specialist. And then Al, Adam, and Trent, you or your companies are generalists. And so my question to the 5 of you is, in one word, do you think they're going to be more, the same, or less deal flow, or deal mix, right? Transactions completed, going to specialists versus generalists?
More deal mix, you mean?
More deal volume, transaction volume that's going to shift. If you think about the mix, like if you had to tag every transaction as being done by a generalist or a specialist, right? Do you think they're going to be more?
No, I don't know if that really matters, that portion of it. I don't know if your deal volume is going to go up or down. I do lean a little bit more towards the fact that I think vertical is the way to go, to being a specialist is the way to go. There's always been specialists in this industry as far back as I've been doing this, but I think it is growing. More and more people are specializing in things, and they're starting to not target just their own geographical area, but targeting the entire country. And to me, there's a lot of pros to that, tons of pros to that. First of all, you get to know that industry inside and out. You really get to know that industry very deep. When somebody talks to you, you're asking questions that in the generalist isn't going to ask. So immediately you're standing out. Then you think about what we're doing every day. What are we doing every day? We're matching buyers and sellers, right? So, if you look at solitaire cards put down, you pick up a card, you pick up another card, you make a match, and you put them aside. Well, think of those cards as your listings and your buyers, and you're matching them up. If you've got a restaurant, a manufacturing plant, an automotive, a lawn business, this, that, it's harder to make those matches. But when you start making those matches, when you're all dealing in the same industry, it's easier to make those matches and get them done. Not to mention, I had thought about 10 years ago, I thought, you know what, if I could redo in Florida, you have to have a real estate license to sell a business. And so I'm a licensed real estate agent. About 10 years ago, I thought to myself, if I went back in time, I would have been a residential real estate agent. That's what I thought for the longest time. The reason I thought about that is I wasn't going to be a residential real estate agent that would sell like a house a month or 2 houses a month. I would have built out an entire system and an entire support staff and want to be one of those real estate agents that are selling 25, 30 homes a month, doing it high volume. Because I looked at the real estate market and I looked at it and I thought, you know what? It's the same thing every time. It's the same, when you get a house listed for sale, it's the same exact thing. And that's the hard thing about businesses, is that every business is completely different. But when you're specializing in something, it's a lot easier to build those systems and those procedures than when you're dealing with 15 different kinds of businesses. So I lean more towards the vertical, and I think that that's where our industry is going to be heading.
Thank God you only asked for a one-word answer.
I appreciate that you listened. Thank you.
Our firm as a whole is a generalist, but people have their own verticals inside of it. So, and like the Colorado economy, for example, is construction and service. That's like basically it. There's no manufacturing, whereas in Texas, there's everything you can imagine under the sun. So I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. It's just what you like doing. And then as you do more HVAC companies, you'll know all the buyers, and you'll do more of those. And maybe you're a specialist in those or whatever.
And my business partner wants to say generalist because he just likes doing different types of businesses all the time. That's what he finds interesting about the field, so it's whatever you want to do.
Ryan had mentioned I'm a generalist, but that's actually not true. I'm a specialist. I found really a particular niche that is just fantastic for me. I specialize working with sellers who lie on their tax returns and buyers who have no money. Robert, any question for you?
Yes, thank you. I feel really blessed to be here for the weekend. I'm new to the industry, and I've heard that sellers get very emotional when it comes to selling their business. So I'd love to learn from each of you a situation where you pulled through. You heard out the seller's concerns, you used those extra sensitive listening skills, you got very empathetic, you thought the deal was going to be lost, but you saved it. And in that story, I think I've learned a tremendous amount about your industry. Thank you for allowing me to ask the question.
All right, we've got a story for us.
So in my third year, I was working on an HVAC and plumbing business. It was an $8 million deal. Actually, it was my second year. I had no right doing this deal. And I relied on so many people to help me get through that deal. And we were supposed to close on Monday morning, and Thursday night at 9 o'clock my phone rang, and it was two brothers selling, and the two brothers got on, and they basically, the older brother said, "I'm out, I'm not selling." And I talked to them from about 9 p.m. to midnight, and and by the way, I paced the entire time in my house. I don't think I said more than 200 words. I just let them talk. They had to get it out. It was a brother issue. I just happened to be on the other end, and they had to have their fight with me sort of listening. And I get a call at 7:30 the next morning from the older brother who had just told me 12 hours earlier, or 8 hours earlier, that he was out. He said, "Yeah, I slept on him. We're good. Let's get this done." I didn't sleep but like 3 hours that night. But you have to listen and let them get it out. I have a psychologist that I have brought into a couple of deals out of the Midwest who caters to retiring C-level executives and retiring business owners. And I called him twice, and I said, "Send me the bill." So I think just listening and trying to be a resource. Because if they're gonna lose it and be emotional, there's very little you can do. This is their life.
They're all emotional. It's their baby, right? It's part of who they are. It's their identity. Like, what are they going to be after this? If they're not Dr. Brown, who is he, right, in the town? I always say I'm going to do a coffee table book and just put like my crazy little stories in it. I don't know, one that comes to mind that was really challenging in a unique way. I'd worked with them for like 10 years because I offer free annual valuations. Like, you get them in the door, and then like, you're not ready to sell yet, no pressure, I'll update it every year. So I've worked with this couple for like 10 years. Good practice, it was decent, average, had real estate, good business. So we get it listed, everything, they finally are like, "Okay, we're gonna list it." I'm like, "Thank God," it's been a long road. We get it listed, things are going well, have some interest. My client, the doctor, passes away when it's listed. Going through the process of that, working with those raw emotions of that widow, was one of the hardest things and one of the most fulfilling things I think I've ever done. For her to go through that, and there were times where it was late night calls, she's crying, there's other times she's angry, there's other times she's confused. That, when you get an opportunity, when God puts something like that in your path, it will make you stronger when you walk. Every time we walk a deal like that with somebody, it makes you better as a broker because there's something that just comes from within and you just lean in and you just do it. You get it done. And I knew I had to get it done for her. But the bond that you make with these owners when you go through, and there's all kinds of stories. I mean, I've had things get on fire, like right before close. I mean, we've had some crazy stuff happen. But I think look at those challenges as opportunities because you do. You learn so much. And I always say we don't really need a business degree. We need like a therapy degree with them because you have to be their trusted ally. Like I was her person that she called when, she wanted to grieve and when she just needed to know things were gonna be okay. And it was okay. I got it to the finish line, we did it together. And we have a bond, and she has sent me a ton of referrals because of it.
So, for the sake of time, you have a story or do you want to? Okay.
I don't want to share a story, but our success is someone else's miracle. So just keep that in mind as you're going through a deal. And you're going to be a therapist in each deal, and it's all going to be different. They're all going to be hard, and it's just a different kind of hard. Each deal makes you better.
All right, last question behind you, Robert.
Thank you. This is Marina. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm a new member. Super exciting and very grateful because I'm learning from all of you. So I do have two questions. One is for all of you and one special for Deborah. First one is, I heard all these days about what to do, but I never heard what not to do. So if you can give me a couple of advices as a new broker, what shouldn't I do in the following month or say first 6 months? Not to do. This is my first one.
So what not to do?
Exactly.
All right.
I would tell you not to treat it like you're a sales business, meaning you're running a business, and I would tell you not to wait to hire an assistant. Everyone worries about the cost, and you have to, like I said earlier, this is a mental game. You have to tell yourself that it's an investment, not a cost. And so, like anything that comes through my computer, if it's a $30 an hour task, I don't even do it. I want to focus on the $300 an hour task. So I would not wait to get an assistant.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody in this room knows a story about Ray Kroc and McDonald's, and somebody asked him, what business, about McDonald's, the business McDonald's, and he said that, he's not in the burger business. They're in the real estate business. That's where they make their money, is the real estate, McDonald's. And I think it's important for us business brokers to kind of step back and think about what business we're in. And I'm sure we're sitting here thinking we're in the sales business, we sell businesses. I heard this one time from another broker, and it's so true. I think we should adapt the mentality that, and let's put building the relationships and all that to the side for a second. Think of yourself as a marketing company. You market for listings. Without that, you have no lifeblood. When you get those listings, you're marketing those listings. So think of yourself as a marketing company and just base your company around that.
Mine's real simple, just don't talk a lot.
Okay. Listen.
All right, Rebecca finishes up. Or did you answer? No, go ahead. Did you answer?
I wanted to ask questions to Deborah. So I switched my career. I came from banking, and I feel I have like a deja vu because remembering sitting in tables, committees, board of directors with so many women and a lot of men around me. So I feel here like we are a minority, so thinking about what we can do to attract more women to this business. If you have any idea or if there is something, because I believe that all of us are very competent and complement each other.
I love that question.
So I think she's asking, how can we attract more women into the business? So there's probably only one person that's qualified here to answer that.
I'm always picking. You know what I think it is? I think it's like Cynthia, right? And I think it's like Carrie. And I think it's like Amy. I think it's all the sweet, fun faces that we just connect and you just encourage each other. And there is a sisterhood that's already here. And we just embrace that. When I first took my CBI test back in 2012, 2013, I was the only girl in the class. I've always been in a male-dominant field in the veterinary industry. It's never bothered me. I've looked at it as, okay, well, I'm the girl, so I stand out, right? I think embrace it. I never really look at that as like an obstacle, and it's so fun because every year I come, I see more and more. But I think it's awesome what the IBBA is doing, like just get more involved with, IWIN and doing different programs like that. But every female here, we have all just been there for each other. I mean, I'm in Sarah's room, she's taking a presentation, I'm taking pictures. I mean, we've just got each other's backs. And so I think I think encourage others and it's just gonna grow. We have an amazing foundation here at IBBA and they're really working on that. And I think just keep showing up and just keep being positive and just encourage each other.
Thank you.
Words of wisdom. All right, any closing remarks anyone would like to say that they haven't been able to share yet?
Jim should go first so we can see if we have any time left.
I don't know. I think that we talked a lot about, the same kind of things today when we were up here talking. And, Adam's mentioned it a few times, and I don't want to give him any kudos after his comments. But, building a team out, I think is the way to go. I'm really a big firm believer in that. At our office, we have a closing coordinator, we have a listing manager. I've got an agent that pre-qualifies buyers and handles the buyer-seller phone calls. And my son's my assistant. I got a lot of, we've got a big support staff. And, I think if you really look at what we do, 80% of what we do, somebody making a lot less money than you could be doing it. And that's going to leverage your time, you can make more money. If you just really start paying attention to how much you were just shuffling paperwork or doing these activities, and you think about the things where the money is made, and you concentrate on where the money is made, that's where you're going to make the most money you can possibly make. And I don't care if you own your own brokerage company or if you've got your own practice. I think that you should build out kind of your own little business within your practice. Did I save you time, Adam?
Follow that. I would just remind everybody, this is a mental game, and you are your own competition. This is one of the best industries I've ever come across. It is hard as hell to get a deal done. You need to celebrate, you need to take care of your team, and you need to take care of yourself, and you need to ask lots of questions and then shut up and listen, both to people in this room and in the industry and the vendors, and you will be much richer in education.
Final comments?
This is an incredible business, and like I said a couple minutes ago, our success is someone else's miracle, so take that seriously on us handling deals. And you're handling Jim said earlier, the biggest deal of someone's life. It's incredible, and it's an incredible blessing, and they pay us a lot of money for it, so it's good.
Rebecca, final comments? You're good.
I feel like I got the last one.
Okay. I want to thank each one of these. This is such a great panel.
How lucky are we? We saved the best for last. Amazing. I am so grateful for all of you. I am grateful for the openness of the group. this is the last time we're going to be here this weekend. I'm kind of sad, and I'm happy. The networking that happened during this event, the communication, the openness from our established brokers to talk to the new brokers. It was a self-reported first-time attendees, and when I left the office, we closed out the online registration. We had 244 brand new first-time attendees at the conference. So I think that's pretty exciting. There's some really new and excited brokers into our industry, and it just makes me so happy to know, because it does seem like such a wonderful business, and what you guys do does change lives. So we ended up with 948 attendees in the conference, which